Hola a todos y bienvenidos al podcast del Centro de Síndrome de Down. Okay, so for some of our listeners, you may wonder, what was I just saying and why did I say it that way? So I'll say it in English and then I'll explain why. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Down Syndrome Center podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Kishore Volodi, and the reason why I am practicing in Spanish is because I suspect for this podcast we may have a lot of Spanish-speaking listeners because today we're going to be talking about a group called Red Down Mexico. And I'm so excited to have Paula Vidal Rojo on the podcast with me to be able to discuss more about what Red Down Mexico is and what they do. But before we get too far, why don't you give our audience a little bit of an idea of who you are and what you do and what draws you to working with this population?
Amazing. Hi, everyone.
Yes.
I'm very pleased to be here. I'm Dr. Paola Vidal. I'm Mexican. I'm a pediatrician and a pediatric cardiologist. And then I am right now working as a subdirector or the vice president of Red Down Mexico, which is a network of people that we try to help and connect all Down syndrome families with medical specialists and healthcare specialists and all around the country.
I guess before we even get into the topic, tell us what draws you to this population. Why do you have a heart for working with people with Down syndrome?
It's funny because my direct connection with a person with Down syndrome came way after I started this. But I made my residency. I made my specialty in a specialist hospital. I mean, a high specialty hospital in Mexico, which is called Hospital Infantil. So we have reference kids with weird diseases and with things that are not routinely common. And we had one specific day for Down syndrome people in one of the clinics. And that's where I started to get a little bit interested, but still I did everything else.
Yeah.
And then life suddenly made me meet people that were already doing this. So they invited me into Red Down as a pediatric cardiologist just to meet people. And little by little, I started scaling up until I became this sort of vice president. And then 3.5 years ago, I had a nephew with Down syndrome. And he's an amazing kid. Fortunately,
Wow.
he had very little things as medical complications, fortunately. And he's called Mateo and he's amazing. So
Wow.
that made it a little bit more important for me to be right here. And so that's how I became interested in just meeting people and being in touch with them. And that's how I got in love with it.
I love that. I love that he's had such an impact on your life and in your career at the same time. It is very similar to what I've experienced with my brother as well. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about what is Red Down Mexico? Where is it located? What is it that you provide for those families in your area?
Red Down Mexico is a network. So we're actually not in a specific place.
Okay.
We're we talk about being outside the borders and trying not to be one place at a time. So we started making our let's say our administrative offices are in Cancun, which is probably very known to everyone, English or Spanish speaking.
Sure.
And that's where we have our headquarters, sort of, to say somehow, right? But we're trying to work all over the country. So we're a network that we affiliate specialists. If any specialist that wants to become part of Red Down we have kind of a process to affiliate people, but when they get in, what they do is that they receive all these patients in their own personal clinics, their private practice. When they get to these people, they probably give them a discount, or we do this kind of things in which we try to give people that may not have a specialist around them to go to a specialist that
Okay.
knows and that is actually up to date on Down syndrome stuff, no? Because we learn new things every day.
Yeah.
And so we're trying not to stay just put in one place. And then we've got two different activities that derive from this thing. So one of the thing is we have sort of a mission We do some missions sometimes in some places in which we get together with another association, and what we do is we bring medical care to the people wherever they are, very, very cheap, maybe even free if the population requires it. And we do a big evaluation. We do physical evaluation, we do nutritional evaluation, we do psychological evaluation, and they go after one day of just going with us, they go with a whole big, like, global diagnosis so that they can know what to do next about that, right? And we do this when a different association asks us to. Is, for example, if we need to go to, I don't know, León, which is a tiny city, they get the people together, and we look at about 50 people in one day. So, or on one weekend, right? So that's one thing we do. And another one is that we just launched our online clinic, trying to make people go into the online clinic and go to a specialist in Down syndrome, a pediatrician specialist in Down syndrome, sorry. Then we go to, if they need a cardiologist, they get a consult with a cardiologist, or with endocrinology, or with genetics, or with psychology. So we do all these things so that they can do it, even though we cannot do a physical examination, and probably we cannot do a first-time diagnosis, but we can do a guideline, we can do a follow-up, and we can help them follow and say, what you need to do right now is this. What you have forgotten to do is this other thing. So trying to change them and tell them what are the next steps they have to do to take care of themselves and to have a better quality of life. And we're trying to break all the geographical barriers, because we know one of the limitations we've got in Mexico is the uneven distribution of healthcare. So this is one of the main things we're trying to do. It's still very, very green or very baby, but it's one of the things we're trying to launch.
Wonderful.
And yeah, so that makes it not a specific place, network of people, and we're trying to build that network of people as well.
And so I guess so the point would be then you have to find different specialists all over the country that are interested in being a part of that. So if you were speaking to somebody now, and you are through this podcast, if there's somebody who's a physician in Mexico, what would you like? How would they get in touch with this network? How would they become a part of it?
The ideal way to get in touch with us is that you know one of us, and that one of us can recommend you.
Okay.
That is still the best way to know that someone is doing a good job.
Yeah.
That we can have some sort of quality check that everything's okay. So if you know anyone in Red Down syndrome, and then you want to be Red Down Mexico, I'm sorry, and then you want to be part of it, then ask him for a recommendation letter and then we can do the rest. If you don't know anyone and you really wish to be, then we need a motives letter, some sort of document that tells us why you want to be part of, why Down syndrome is so important, and who are you, and what do you do, and what's your specialty, and what's your specialty, and how do you move around the world. So we can do this without making sure that we've got quality people working for the Down syndrome families.
Yeah.
Because we all know, and this happens all around the world, not everyone is as good as they say they are. And not everyone is as in love with the syndrome as they say they are. So we're trying to have this kind of a filter to get in, that we can really have people with that follow our culture and that do the things that we do as we do them. So what they can do is that they can go into our webpage, which I can give you, and then we can
put it in the show notes.
Yeah. So because it's red and then -downmexico.org. But if you go in, there's a space that says affiliations, and that's where it says affiliation of collaborators, which can be a doctor and with any specialty, which can be a physical therapist, a language therapist, a psychologist. We have all these things that people with Down syndrome really need.
Yeah.
And we'll take it on from there. You just contact us and we'll take it on from there.
This is truly an amazing thing. I really didn't know very much about the specifics of what you did and what your team is doing there until this podcast. So you're really trying to bring Down syndrome appropriate care really to an entire country and going beyond the borders of the different states and things like that. That's really amazing. That there must be some challenges that you face along the way with doing something like this. Why don't you tell us some of those things that you've come across?
Well, we can talk about the basic challenges that
Yeah,
everyone should do, like technological things
yeah.
and money wise, and we need donations and we need some more things to expand and all these technical issues, right?
Yeah.
But we also have another challenge that is the knowledge of people. So there's a lot of people that don't know that they have the right to ask for all these things.
Mm,
So, and we still have a lot of myths and a lot of malpractices going around of many doctors and many specialists and therapists that are not up to date, that
mhm,
don't know a lot of stuff. And I mean, I've got a personal experience that one family came to me and said, we came to you because we were in a government hospital and they told us that since he had Down syndrome, he was not going to live. If he's not going to live, then we're not going to do anything for him.
mhm.
And that happened in the 21st century. So, I mean, we still have those things that block the possibility of people to have healthcare. So what we try to do is one, we do three main things: the attention thing, which is or the direct contact, which is these two things that I talked about earlier. We've got this our C program, which we call Capacitación, which is teaching people. We have an online academy with courses about what is Down syndrome, what can you do, how can you do um, some sort of therapy at home, what means to have educational help at home, how can you take care of the heart at home, how can you take care of the health at home, what does it mean to have a good diet and stuff like this, so they can actually take a course online on their own time and learn something that can help them in their homes. And then we try to distribute all kinds of information so that we can start avoiding and eliminating these myths and these ideas that Down syndrome is still going to die, so we're not going to do anything. No,
Mhm,
trying
mhm,
to make actually explain people that we can prolong and make the bigger lifespan with a
mm.
better quality of life if we all put our heads together. So we did these three things because if we just take care of one thing and we don't take care of the other thing, then it's all gonna break down somehow.
Yeah.
So what we do is try to make all these things together, breaking the geographical barriers. So another barrier is that not all the people have access to internet or to a computer, or if they have a smartphone, they don't have enough data to go into anything else than communicating. And so we have that barrier, which is a socioeconomical one. We estimate that we don't have a real number of how many people with Down syndrome live in the country, in Mexico,
Mm,
but we have an estimate of about 200,000.
okay.
And we started making a registry of all the people that we can find, say that write your name here and put on your specifics and stuff like that,
Yeah.
asking them questions about the medical care and how were your diagnosis, if you go to physical therapy, if you go to psychological therapy, if you go to school and stuff like that. So we're trying to make a big diagnosis of actually how the situation is. And we only have short of 3,000 registries. So we're barely touching the 1%. And we want to go over that one. We still have a lot of people to connect with that we don't know where they are.
Yeah.
That's another bit that we're trying to
Sure.
figure out. That's why we need also specialists and associations around all over the country to help us find all these people, because we're not going to be able to do it on our own,
Hmm.
right? So and I think that another challenge is that we're all volunteers.
Mm.
We're not here because of any if we don't have a paycheck.
Hmm.
We can get a little bit of money when the people come to our private practice and they pay for a service, but we give it to them with a discount.
Yeah.
But we're not here for the money. We're all volunteers. We're all trying to make things better for the people, and that's always a challenge because we have a time limitation, a free time limitation, right? So I'm gonna do something pro bono, I just have a little small gap to do that because I still have to pay a lot of other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So those are our main challenges that we face. That we're talking about a lot of people in a big surface area
Yeah.
with loads of socioeconomical defaults, and we are all volunteers. So this makes it a little bit that makes all the process slower, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love hearing what you're doing. I love the work that you're doing to be able to provide these services for families in the country. I guess what would you see Red Down being doing in about 5 to 10 years from now? What would be an ideal thing that you would see some area of growth or change or addition to what you all are doing right now?
I'm gonna try and make my Santa Claus plea right now.
Okay.
What we're trying, I believe that what we want to do is have specialists all around the country in all 32 states, good, 32 states, and in another countries, if we can, Spanish speaking countries, or even sometimes with some specialists, English speaking people. So we can try to reach beyond borders and try to go over our geographical limitations. But mainly try to reach all those 200,000 people in Mexico, try to give them something else. Maybe we can change their lives with one visit to the cardiologist, or maybe we can change their lives because they took a course and they understood something different, or that we connected one family to the next, and so they became together and built something different. I don't know. We're trying to make this networks of people all around, and I think that what we're trying to do is make healthcare democratic.
Yeah.
Try to get actually people that need it to receive what they need, right? Why see my being realistic and putting real goals at the end of the haul. I think first trying to reach our whole country in about five years,
Yeah.
having at least one or two specialists in each state. If we can have more and have one specialist of each thing in every state would be amazing. So
Yeah.
that we can actually build something worthwhile. That would be I think step number one.
Yeah.
Step number two is build up a registry so that people really know who we are and we can send them information and give them more about the services that we provide.
Hmm.
Not have 3,000 people, have at least 50,000 people, at least 1/4 of all the population that we estimate that is living in Mexico. And probably for the 10-year mark, try to reach at least 100,000 people,
Yeah.
have two specialists of each thing in each state, and maybe specialists or at least some sort of association that we can work with in other countries, in other Spanish speaking countries. I'm focusing especially in Latin America because we all have this problem in Latin America about healthcare attendance and healthcare services. So I think it's the population that we were more interested in.
Hmm.
But I don't know, trying to expand and build a big network of people, that's where I think we should be in 5 to 10 years. We're trying to see if we can get somehow understand a little bit more of IA and
Yeah.
go on and see what else we can do with technology, right?
Yeah. I am so amazed by what you're doing. I feel like we could definitely use your help here in the US as well, where we have so many states that don't have Down syndrome specific care here as well. It's really tremendous to hear what you're doing there in Mexico. Well, anything else you want to make sure that our audience knows or our listeners know before we close this podcast today about Red Down Mexico?
What do I need them to know? I would like them to know so many things.
Yes.
But I think one thing is to start opening our hearts
Hmm.
and understanding that people with Down syndrome and families with Down syndrome are no different than any other family.
Hmm.
they're the same. They face the same challenges. The challenge to pay for rent or for paying for mortgage, the challenge of going to school and trying to make our kids the best kids they could be, the challenge of going to work and gaining and getting a paycheck, the challenge of having a good family dynamics and not having to fight all day, the challenge of, I mean, everything is exactly the same for all the other families. Probably the difference between those the regular families, to put it in a sort of way, which is, I think, not the best, but and Down syndrome families is that they have a little bit bigger burden on medical stuff and on educational stuff. But the rest of it are the same challenges we're trying to face, and we're living in the same world. So the way to make this world a better place is just to understand that everyone has his own fight, that we're all trying to have a good quality of life and live the best we can, and that respecting and helping is gonna get us a long, long way.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. Thank you for your passion and your heart for this population and for sharing what it is that Red Down is doing. Gracias.
You're so very welcome, and it was very, very, very nice to talk
Yeah.
about what we do, and I'm very honored that you considered us.
Wonderful. And so, what I think I'm going to do actually, I'm going to release this podcast both in English and in Spanish in two separate podcasts at the same time, so that our English speaking and our Spanish speaking families can listen to the information that you provided today. Yeah,
Great
and
bargain.
yes, yes, and thank you to our listeners for always being so faithful in being able to give me ideas of different podcasts, and listeners who maybe feel like you have a topic you'd like to discuss on the podcast as well, that we always entertain those things. Just send me an email to downsyndromecenter@chp.edu. And if you'd like to partner with us in the work that we do here in our center, including this podcast, you can go to givetochildrens.org/Down Syndrome Center. But until next time, adios.